World Book Day is all about this beautiful, large, enormous polar bear here, and his name is Hunter. So I would normally be asking you to put up your hands if you know anything about polar bears, but that's pretty tricky to do when we're doing it over with this many children. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about polar bears in general, and hopefully I want you to think about where you might have seen them, the kind of environment they live in, what kinds of things they like to do. So this polar bear is a male polar bear. He lives in the Arctic, which is right at the top of the world in the North Pole. Very, very cold, and it doesn't bother him at all. He loves the cold. Now, you might not think it when we go out and we get cold and we start to, get cold toes, cold fingers, and we come in and warm up, and we love that feeling, don't we? But he actually loves being cold. It doesn't bother him at all. So imagine if you were to go out wearing a hat, a glove, scarf, coat, boots, and everything, but it was 10 centimeters thick. Everything you were wearing was 10 centimeters, which is about this much thick. Imagine walking around with coats and hats and gloves that were so thick, I don't think any of us would be able to move. So his coat that he wears is really, really thick, much thicker than any of our coats, and that keeps him super duper warm. And he's also got a very thick layer of fat blubber on him. It's called blubber, and it's another layer. So he's got like his layer of fur and his layer of blubber, and combined that keeps him extra warm. So he can swim in the sea, he can roll in the snow, and he doesn't feel any cold at all. Now where he lives, it's actually dark for a lot of the year as well. So he's a very special animal to live in such difficult conditions. Now, we're going to be listening to his story, and as we're listening to it, I'd like you to really think about and imagine what this polar bear is thinking and feeling, because when I wrote this story, I didn't actually really write about a character and how he thinks and how he talks. It's a true story, so it's more kind of matter of fact. You'll get an idea when we hear the story. Okay, so when you're writing your stories, of course, you are, I'm sure, very creative in what you come up with. So really use that imagination to think about how this little hunter bear, this polar bear might be feeling. Okay, so I'll try and hold this up and read at the same time. I'm hoping you can see this. This is a beautiful picture here, and he's quite happy at home. So you won't see my face, you'll just see the pictures. Let's have a listen to the story then. It's about 5 or 6 minutes long, and nice and quiet, and just relaxing and imagining what he might be feeling. As the cold wind whistled across the icy wilderness, a magnificent polar bear called Hunter rolled happily in the fresh snow, cleaning his beautiful white coat and stretching his powerful body. The sky above him glowed red with the Arctic sunrise, and he looked forward to diving into the freezing waters to begin his hunt for seals. Hunter knew it often took him a long time to catch his favourite prey, and his rumbling tummy reminded him he'd better get started. His mother had taught him to hunt seals by waiting patiently on the thick sea ice, catching them quickly as they came up for air. Hunter normally had to wait several hours for a seal to appear, but today he was feeling ravenously hungry and decided to try sneaking up on a seal asleep on an ice floe. There's the little seal. Hunter moved confidently and swiftly, his paws creeping softly over the floating ice. Slipping into the icy waters, he stealthily swam to the next floe before climbing quietly out of the sea. Many times he repeated this pattern of walking and swimming until he spotted several large seals sunning themselves on the ice just ahead. Gliding through the inky deep waters, Hunter waited for his breathing to slow before launching himself up onto the ice just in front of a sleeping seal. Completely taken by surprise, the seal instinctively dived for the safety of the sea, barely escaping Hunter's impressive jaws, which hungrily snapped shut on thin air. Defeated and needing to regain some of his strength, he lay down on the ice to rest, aware of the motion of the sea beneath him as he floated along in the rapid ocean currents. So that was a lucky escape for that seal, wasn't it? Phew. Now here's Hunter, he's out in the open water. As the sky came alive with the colours of the night, he noticed that the sea was getting rougher and the ice was breaking into smaller pieces. With increasing desperation, he struggled to grip onto the ice before he was suddenly tipped off into the sea with a large splash. Giving a final look at the disappearing ice, Hunter swam steadily with the current, his strong legs paddling easily through the water as he searched for land or ice on which to rest. Got the beautiful colours here of the aurora borealis, or the northern lights, and that's a trick of the sun that happens when you get up where it's very, very icy and cold and beautiful, don't you think? After many hours of swimming, he at last glimpsed waves breaking around the edge of a small iceberg. Hauling his shivering body out onto the glistening ice, he curled up and went to sleep. Days went by as the Arctic sun shone stronger and stronger, and Hunter began to feel hot and uncomfortable. His icy refuge was rapidly melting now, and he knew he didn't have much longer left before it disappeared completely. Sometimes enormous icebergs would silently drift past him, but their icy sides were too steep and high for Hunter to climb onto. Floating alongside them, he sadly realised he was far from home and lost in a world he didn't recognise. Desperately scanning the horizon for signs of land, he at last heard the harsh calls of seagulls on their cliff-top homes. Plunging once more off the edge of the ice, he frantically swam for safety, his claws grappling on the sharp rocks of the steep shore. He's finally made it back to land. There he is, heaving his heavy body up the towering cliff. He soon became trapped on a tiny ledge and could go no further. Too steep for him to climb up and too far for him to jump down, Hunter miserably waited for his fate as the last flurry of winter snow fell around him. A loud noise startled Hunter as a small helicopter hovered nearby. The pilot and tourist had spotted the trapped polar bear high up on his rocky perch, and realising there was no way out for the helpless animal, they called in the local rescue services. There we go, right. Arriving shortly, the rescue teams worked out the best way to reach Hunter. Polar bears are incredibly aggressive and dangerous animals and can easily cause humans harm if they come too close or are threatened. The brave vet leant out of the rescue helicopter to fire a harmless tranquilizer dart at Hunter, which caught him on his shoulder. As Hunter drifted off to sleep, the Coast Guard team rapidly attempted to reach him. Got to try and rescue him off this cliff. Using ropes and safety gear, the rescuers climbed down the treacherous cliffs and tried to wrap Hunter in a strong cargo net so they could lower him to the water below. They knew the large polar bear could wake up at any moment, and the danger they were in was extreme. Suddenly, just as they were about to start lowering him down, one of the ropes broke and Hunter started to fall. Remember, this is a true story. Hanging upside down and held on by only one rope around his back leg, Hunter finally fell with a giant splash into the calm sea below. Floating in the water and still fast asleep and unable to swim, the waiting boats moved quickly next to him. With a huge effort, the crew lifted Hunter's magnificent head out of the water so he could breathe before towing him towards the safety of the local beach. The place where Hunter had come ashore was near to several towns, and it was too risky to leave him close to where people live. The Coast Guard decided the quickest way to take him back to where he belonged was by a helicopter. Still peacefully dreaming of his frozen home, Hunter was securely placed in the strong net before the helicopter lifted him up and headed north towards the ice. Finally, as he was lowered down and released onto the hard ice, the helicopter sped away and he started to wake up. So he's inside that net there, being carried back to his home. Feeling safe at last, Hunter rolled excitedly in the sunlit snow before setting off to explore his new home. The land was showing signs of spring as the ice was melting away and rocks and new plants were pushing through the frozen ground. Further out on the thicker sea ice, Hunter settled down patiently to catch his food, soon forgetting about the melting icebergs and open ocean, the difficult swimming and the rocky cliffs. he happily realised he was free to chase and hunt, to swim and explore once again. Doesn't he look happy there in his new home, back where he belongs on the sea ice? Now, poor old Hunter, what an adventure he'd had. So, 1 second, I just got to turn something off. So there he was, quite happy in his home, until he went chasing this big seal, and the seal kind of took him further and further out onto the sea ice, and soon the sea ice started to break up and started to melt, and he got carried away on the currents, and he went far, far south, much further south than he should be, and all the ice was melting around him, and then he climbed out, he made it to safety, and then he got trapped on a cliff. Now, when I saw this video of this polar bear trapped like this, that was really dramatic to see. These rescuers, they came down on the ropes to rescue this polar bear, and they wrapped him up in this net to kind of contain him in ropes. And then the rope snapped, and this poor polar bear just fell into the water. And then they had to rescue him and take him to the beach. So it was a really exciting story to see, and I thought, what a great way to help explain this issue to children. So the issue we're looking at here is something that's happening in our world. You might have heard these words before, and it's due to climate change. So I'm sure a lot of you already have some ideas about what climate change is, but it's to do with the effects of people and what we're doing to our planet, and how we're putting too much carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. So if we take a breath in, if everyone breathes in, we're breathing in oxygen, and out comes a gas called carbon dioxide, and other things as well. So we breathe in oxygen and out comes carbon dioxide. And carbon dioxide, there's nothing wrong with that, except when there's too much of it. And we get too much of it by things like lots and lots of cars, lots of factories producing gases, big chimneys coming out. So there's different ways, cutting down trees. When the tree gets cut down and it gets turned into something else, then carbon dioxide can come off of that. So there's lots of ways, and each way is contributing to the big problem. So it's not just one little thing that we can fix and solve, it's all of it. And the problem is, this carbon dioxide then causes our planet to get a little bit hotter each time. So the hotter it gets, obviously you might think, oh, a lovely sunny day, great. We love the sun, don't we? Because we don't get to see much of it, especially after a long winter. But we really, really don't want the planet to get too hot, because then dramatic things start happening. Things like big storms, lots and lots of big storms, or flooding, droughts, things that we have all the time. But these things might get worse. So bigger storms than normal, more flooding than normal. And this is the problem that we're trying to help tackle. And so for little Hunter, or big Hunter, I should say, up in the Arctic, the thing that's happening to him is his ice is melting. Now, he needs that ice. Not only has he got this big thick coat to protect him from the cold, if he gets too hot, he doesn't like it. But he needs the ice to catch his favourite food, which is seals. So the seals, they use the ice for sleeping, for hunting, and for having their babies. And if they stop using that ice, because the ice is gone, then there's no seals for Hunter to catch. And if there's no seals, then he doesn't get fat enough to stay warm enough to survive the winter, and he gets hungry. Now, it's very difficult for polar bears to catch seals anyway. Something like, for every time they go hunting, they're only successful like 2% of the time. I mean, imagine that, every time you go to eat food, you only eat 2% of the time. You'd be having to eat a lot at that one time that you catch something. So seals give him lots of calories, lots of energy. And although it's sad for the seals, we don't want seals to be hurt, but it's a fact of life, and the polar bear needs that. So seals, they stay out on these icy shelves. If you see back to this picture here, they fall asleep and they come up to breathe, and they rest on these floating bits of ice. And the polar bear creeps up. You saw Hunter kind of creeping up to catch the seal. And if there's no sea ice, then the seals don't rest there, and the polar bears can't catch them. So that's the problem. what can we all do about it? And I'm sure a lot of you are doing these things already. So it's things like, and this is again, I'd normally ask you to put your hands up, but you can put your hands up at home or at school. Hands up if you recycle at home or at school. Do you recycle? And teachers as well? Brilliant. So every time you recycle, that is helping our planet. And it means that what we're throwing away can get turned into something new. So that's helping us to stop using new things all the time and using new resources. All right, hands up, please, if you really try to walk to school or walk to the shops or walk to the play park, walk to, you near the beach? Yeah, walk to the beach instead of always driving, because every time we walk somewhere or go on our bikes or go on our scooters, whoa, loads of hands up, that's brilliant. Well done, everybody. Every time we do that, that's really helping again. So these are the little things, and I'm sure your teachers and your parents can talk about these as well. Have we got time for the little activity, or did you want to do that afterwards? Yeah? So
yeah, that would be brilliant. I think they'd really enjoy it, Ellie. I really do.
Okay, fab. So what I was thinking I'd ask you to do is the little activity that you can make, and then when you come back to school next week, you can all put it together to make one big display. And as I was thinking, gosh, what can they do at home and at school, and that's quite easy and simple and will help animals like Hunter, I thought we could all make a promise, like a little promise activity of what we can do, just one person, just us or our families, to help stop or help tackle climate change. So I thought we could do something like this. Now, this is a draw around your hand thing. I think we can all do that, can't we? So are we going to do it now, or do I just explain it? Would you like?
If you explain it, Ellie, then parents and teachers who are with the children at the moment can do it. And then if you're happy, I'd love to take a photo of some of those and send them across to you so that you can see what we've achieved after the session.
Brilliant. So normally I'd go into a school and we'd do a workshop, and we'd have art and all different things to draw from, and we'd make some amazing posters. But I think you can still do some amazing work at home. This is something I very simply did. Now, believe it or not, I'm not an artist. I did not paint or draw any of those beautiful pictures in the book there. And I don't know what your artwork is like, but I'm sure when you write your stories, part of the fun part is drawing the pictures to go with it. And I think it's really important to have that imagination to get those pictures down, because the pictures are what brings the story to life. And it really doesn't matter if you can't draw very well at all, because it's the ideas and the fun and the imagination that's really important. So I still draw stick people, and when I'm sending my story off to my illustrator, I have all of the pictures drawn out as stick people versions, and then she turns that into something amazing. So I thought it doesn't really matter what our artwork looks like, but we get the idea here. So the first thing I'd like us to do is to draw around our hand, doesn't matter which hand, and inside that hand we're going to write our promise. And it could just be something simple like, I promise I will try to ... We're not going to do this all the time, okay? We have to be realistic. It's not possible to never use our cars or never use plastic. Plastic's great for lots of different things. It's the single-use plastic that we're trying to get away from. So in this hand, I want us to write our little promise down, and I'll share this picture with your teacher to share. But the idea is, inside it, we're going to write maybe 5 things that we think we could like to try to do as our promise to the earth to help look after it. So I've got in one of my fingers here, it says, pick up litter, recycle, walk to school, and turn off the lights. I've got 4 children, and even though I've written this book about climate change, they still all leave the lights on. It's just a never-ending battle, but it's just such a simple thing. As you leave a room, you turn off the light, and collectively, all together, if we did that, we'd save so much energy. Another thing, eating up all your dinners, eating up all your lunch boxes. How many times do you bring home half-eaten sandwiches, bits of crusts, things that you don't want to finish off? All of that extra little bits of food, when it goes into the recycling, or it goes into the general waste, it gives off extra gases that all help contribute to climate change. It's a massive thing, just little bits of things left on the plate. If we just ate everything and had no food waste or very little food waste, that's a big thing. So you might, that could be your challenge. I'll always eat my crusts. Can help save the planet. Okay, so you're going to write your little promises inside the hand, and then around the outside we can decorate it how you like. Now I've just done something very simple. A crisp packet. I'm always picking up litter with a litter picker, I might add. Not with your bare hands, please, unless you're wearing gloves and it's especially organised. So there's safe ways to pick up and do a beach clean or a litter pick. I've got recycling, and then you might want to add in some facts about polar bears. You might want to add in some pictures, all kinds of things, and we can either cut out the hands or put the whole posters up. I don't know how the school wants to display it, but I think that's just a really simple thing that you can all do. Has anyone got any questions?
Ellie, before we go on to questions, can I just say a huge thank you? Your stories are just wonderful. Not only are they super exciting, but the fact that they have such a clear message within them is brilliant. And it's something that we're working really hard on this year as a school. So it's really lovely that the children can all make their sort of pledge with the hand in that way, and we can all work together on this. So we'll absolutely share that with you. And going forward, once we can, it would be lovely to have you in to share some more and to see all of our display and to hear about our hard work in that way. So guys, you do have access to the chat, or at least you should have. So I've just put a message in the chat that says please add your questions for Ellie here. So if you've got any questions for her, please type them in the chat and then I can read them out to her. And while we're just waiting for those questions to start popping up, I've got one for you, Ellie, because I didn't realise that was a true story until you said about the video you'd seen. So my question is, do you still have that video? Because I know our children would really love to see that actual live event and then to read your story again.
Yeah, I'll send you over that link. So all of my books. So I meant to say, actually, you should have the first 3 books in the school. So this, has everyone seen this book before?
We have.
I know, a couple of our teachers read your stories, Ellie, for our Jackanory. So right. Yeah, lots of our children have definitely heard them as well.
Up there. Thank you. Okay, so they're the first 3, and I'm pleased to say that I've managed to get funding to donate the other 2 books in. So you'll be getting a copy of Hunter and the new one about the orangutan as well. So they'll be going out to your school next week. So that's perfect for you. And just one extra thing. I had, we're organising a Cornwall Climate Action Day for all primary schools in Cornwall, because all schools will be getting a copy of Hunter. And so when the G7 is here in June, teachers, just keep in mind, we're going to be doing a whole Cornish massive kind of climate action day with Eden Project and Wildlife Trust and Environment Agency, all kinds of things. So that's something to bear in mind. Okay, some questions are coming in.
Yeah, so we've got Safi in year 4 who would like to know why you decided to be an author.
Well, I've always loved writing and reading, and in fact reading is where it first started for me. I remember my parents would say, come and do the hoovering, or come and clean the car or something, and whatever I was doing, I'd be doing the hoovering, reading a book, or I'd wash the car, reading a book. I probably didn't do a very good job of all of that, but it was a passion of mine was to read. Sometimes I'd read 2 or 3 books in a day. So that's where it first started, my love of reading and writing. And then to actually become an author was all down to the book about the turtle, who I saw the turtle being released into the ocean with Duffy. And I actually saw that with my own eyes, what happened to her in that story. And I thought, what a great way to share this with children through a story. I had written a few books before and sent them off to publishers, and they'd come back saying, no, don't like them. So I was a bit sad. So I thought, I'm going to do it anyway and not listen to them.
We're pleased you did.
Yeah. So there's another idea for a next story from Ingrid Yeomans there.
That's our year 5-6 children. They're in class with Mrs. Yeomans.
Oh, right, with Mrs. Yeomans. Okay, so the next story dun, 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 is about, so I haven't got any pictures to show you. I'll send you, and you can be the first children in the world to see the pictures. I'll send them over to your teacher and see if you can guess what it is. I'm a small animal. I live in a tree. I like to eat leaves. I sleep a lot of the time. I live where it's hot. See if you can think. Some hands going up. I'm grey. I've got 2 little fluffy ears like a bear. My name means no drink. Anybody like to know? Koala, someone said it. Well done, whoever guessed that on the questions. It's a koala, and it's all about Australia and the wildlife in Australia and what happens to this koala. Do I give it away? Okay, to do with bushfires and climate change again. So another true story there. And I used to live in Australia, so I used to see koalas all the time. Someone's holding up a koala teddy. That was quick. Who got that out? That was super quick.
That's Harry. That's brilliant. I can see the family there behind the koala. That's brilliant.
All right, there's another question here. What made you choose the polar bear story to write about? Well, the polar bear is definitely linked to climate change. So when I knew I wanted to write about climate change, it was just automatic, the polar bear. Even though these animals are so dangerous to humans, they're so beautiful and just magnificent. I had to write about him. So this little polar bear, I've got my teddy now. Ooh, and he's made out of recycled bottles, this one. Okay, the next question. Oh, that was from Elizabeth, year 2. Thank you, Elizabeth. That was a good question. And then I saw the video, which I'll send later. And I've got Scarlett in year 4 saying, are all of your stories true? Yes, Scarlett, they are all true, because I'd love to say I've got a creative brain to imagine, Timmy and Poppy going on an adventure and find a cave and some treasure. But I just like writing about true stories, things that are real. And I used to be a teacher, so that kind of ties in with teaching children about real things. So I think what kept coming back to me when I was learning to write these stories was write about something because you've seen it with your own eyes. And when you're writing your stories, if you can picture something that actually happened to you and write it into your story, even if it's just a little bit of the story, it gives it so much more interest and knowledge because you've seen it with your own eyes. So there's a couple more questions, and probably that's enough, I think, because some of you are getting fidgety. I know it's hard to sit in front of the screen all the time. So this one says, Theo from year 2, have you only made books about animals? Yes, Theo, that's the only style that I'm writing at the minute. And in fact, even the books, I was looking back, even the books that I wrote and sent to the publisher and they told me were rubbish, basically. They were also animal rescue stories. I wrote those 20 years ago, and that was about oil spills and animals falling off a cliff and needing to be rescued and stuff. So even then, before I got into this turtle and the whale and things, I was always loved nature and animals. So it was just natural fit for me. So again, find something you love, and that could be the thing you write about. So it could be fantasy, it could be wildlife, it can be people, it could be real events, whatever you like, but something you enjoy writing about. You've got to love it. And the last question, Lorena says, from year 2, when did you start writing and what age? And I have always written. I used to send off and win competitions at school for writing. So I think I've just always been in my nature to write stories. And yeah, I've started professionally writing this only 5 years ago, so it's not been long. So I've had children and it's taken time to get together. So yeah, I'm really excited and just love sharing this with you all. So thank you so much for having me today and for being such a great audience, not making a single sound. That's perfect.
Bless you. If only we could mute them when they're in the hall.
Yeah, no, we love it.
I miss all that hustle and bustle. I really do. I'm just going to ask Miss Parr to put it back so that we can see the gallery view, so we can see everyone, Miss Parr, and then we can give Ellie a huge round of applause. Even though it'll be silent, she'll be able to see us all clapping. So Miss Parr, if you can do your magic thing that you did to get just Ellie, if you can get everyone back, and then we'll give her a huge round of applause, because I've thoroughly enjoyed that and I know all you have too. So let's give her a huge clap.
Thank you so much.
Give her a massive wave, and Ellie, we really hope that we'll be able to see you in school soon, and we are looking forward to that full Cornwall Climate Day. We work a lot with the Eden Project, so we'll definitely be part of that. And I can't thank you enough for doing this morning.
That was great. I really enjoyed it. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thanks, guys. So don't forget to do your hand pledge, and if you're at home you can send those as photos on Teams or Dojo, and on Monday you can bring them in with you and we can make that huge display so we're all making our promises together. One big huge wave to Ellie and a huge thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye guys. Bye.